She wore no insignia, no unit patch, just a plain black cap in calm hands. At the range, the guy next lane smirked. "You hold that thing like a school teacher." She didn't answer. 10 rounds, 10 hits, all center mass through wind. Then a black SUV pulled up. A SEAL commander stepped out, glanced her way, and saluted. No words, no context, just that. And the whole range went silent. If you believe skill speaks louder than rank type, she never missed below. It was a Sunday morning at Iron Creek Range, the kind of civilian-military hybrid shooting facility near Quantico, where off-duty special operators trained alongside weekend warriors who like to show off their expensive equipment. She arrived completely alone in the early morning mist. No military decals on her weathered pickup truck. No unit stickers or veteran license plates. Just an old Ford Dusty and unremarkable parked in the back corner of the gravel lot. She walked into the facility, carrying a single hard-shell rifle case rented lane number 7, without conversation, and nodded politely to the young clerk behind bulletproof glass. No one recognized her face or bearing. In the adjacent lane was a group of former Marines, now working private security contracts, loud voices, muscular builds, expensive tactical gear, and the kind of confidence that comes with successful deployments in steady paychecks. One of them, a thick-necked guy named Torres, nudged his buddy when he noticed her methodical setup routine. $5 says she's never handled anything bigger than a .22 caliber, he whispered loud enough for others to hear. His teammates chuckled and agreed, placing small side bets while watching her careful preparation through peripheral vision. Her first shot completely shattered the morning silence. A .308 Winchester expertly suppressed, placing a perfect center mass hit on a paper target at 100 yards. The next 9 rounds followed with mechanical precision. Same target, same grouping, wind correction, calculated perfectly in her head, breathing controlled and steady. The range clerk behind protective Gwen actually paused his paperwork to watch. "Who the hell is that woman?" he muttered to himself. She reloaded with practiced efficiency, then moved deliberately to the long-range shooting position. No wasted movements or unnecessary equipment. No laser rangefinders or ballistic calculators. Just a quick glance at the wind flag and a small pencil notation in her personal logbook. Her shots began systematically tearing the X-ring completely out of a steel silhouette positioned at 600 yards of distance that challenged even experienced military snipers. Torres and his buddies had gone completely silent, their earlier jokes forgotten, as they watched precision shooting that exceeded anything they had ever witnessed. The woman never looked their direction or acknowledged their presence. She simply focused on her targets with a kind of intense concentration that suggested this was serious business rather than recreational activity. Her shooting stance was textbook perfect, not the aggressive tactical posture favored by military contractors, but the refined technique of someone who had spent years perfecting fundamentals under pressure. Between strings of fire, she made minimal adjustments to her scope settings, consulting handwritten notes that appeared to contain detailed ballistic data accumulated over many years of experience. The range's other patrons began migrating toward the observation area, drawn by the sound of consistently perfect shots echoing across the facility. Even the range safety officers, typically focused on preventing accidents rather than admiring marksmanship, found themselves watching her technique with professional respect. She fired 25 rounds total, each one, striking precisely where intended before methodically cleaning her rifle and packing her equipment with the same careful attention to detail. No celebration, no acknowledgment of the small crowd that had gathered to watch, just quiet competence that spoke louder than any boastful demonstration. As she prepared to leave, Torres approached hesitantly his earlier arrogance, replaced by genuine curiosity and respect. "Ma'am, that was some incredible shooting. Where did you train?" She looked at him once briefly with eyes that had seen things civilians couldn't imagine. "Everywhere it mattered," she replied softly, then continued packing her gear. Sometimes the quietest people carry the heaviest storms behind their carefully controlled silence. And sometimes respect appears in forms that defy all logical explanation. Around noon, just as the morning shooting session was winding down, A black SUV with government plates rolled into Iron Creek Rangers' parking lot. Matte black finish, tinted windows, no visible markings, except a small DOD decal barely visible in the corner of the windshield. From the driver's seat stepped a man in crisp navy blue utilities, obviously fit, alert posture, and carrying himself with the unmistakable bearing of high-level military command. One of the former Marines, Martinez, nudged Torres and whispered urgently, "That's someone very important who just arrived. Look at how he moves." The commander walked directly past the front reception desk, without stopping for check-in procedures, moving with purpose, straight to the bulletproof glass observation window, overlooking the active firing ranges. He didn't scan the facility or acknowledge other patrons. His attention focused immediately and exclusively on the woman in the black cap, who was completing her final string of shots at the 600 yards line. For several heartbeats, absolutely no one in the facility moved or spoke. Then the commander stepped outside onto the range floor, walking deliberately toward her position. She sensed his approach before actually seeing him, the kind of situational awareness that comes from years of operations where inattention meant death. But she didn't stop her shooting sequence or break her concentration. One final round, the metallic click of an empty chamber. She carefully placed her rifle on the shooting bench, engaged the safety, and turned to face the approaching officer. Without a word, she assumed the position of attention, not the relaxed stance of a civilian, but the precise military bearing of someone who understood protocol. The commander said absolutely nothing. He simply brought his right hand up in a textbook perfect military salute. Sharp execution, formal precision, the kind of respectful salute typically reserved for equals in rank or fallen heroes being honored. The gesture lasted exactly 3 seconds before he lowered his arm, nodded once with obvious respect, then turned and walked away without explanation. The woman returned the salute briefly, then resumed packing her equipment, as if nothing unusual had occurred. The range clerk who had witnessed this exchange came running outside, practically stumbling over himself. "Ma'am, excuse me, but who are you exactly?" he asked breathlessly. She finished zipping her rifle case, picked up her shooting notebook, and looked at him with the same calm expression she had maintained throughout the morning. "Nobody you need to worry about," she replied simply. But behind her, excited whispers spread through the gathered crowd like wildfire among dry grass. Was that a SEAL team commander? Did she serve in special operations? Why would a senior officer salute a civilian? That wasn't just respect. That was recognition of something specific. Torres, who had initially mocked her shooting stance, shook his head in amazement. "I've been to Afghanistan twice and Iraq once. Never saw anyone shoot like that. And never saw a commander salute anyone who wasn't active duty or Medal of Honor." Martinez nodded in agreement. Whatever she did in service, it was significant enough to earn that kind of respect from someone who doesn't hand out recognition lightly. The woman collected her gear and walked toward the parking lot, moving with the same unhurried confidence she had displayed throughout the morning. As her pickup truck disappeared down the access road, the range fell into contemplative silence. Respect isn't something you demand or request. It's what follows you long after you stop asking for it, earned through actions that speak louder than words or uniforms. If you believe legends don't need introduction or explanation, type "she wore no rank" below. The SEAL commander returned to Iron Creek Range exactly 1 week later, arriving during the same morning hours when fewer people would be present to observe or ask questions. He approached the range manager's office with obvious purpose, knocking once before entering the small administrative space. "Did the woman in the black cap leave anything behind?" he asked without preamble. The range manager, a retired Army sergeant named Bill Crawford, shook his head thoughtfully. "Nothing, except the cleanest shooting lane I've ever seen. She policed her brass, swept the area, even wiped down the bench. Most professional cleanup I've witnessed in 20 years. But word of the unusual salute incident had already begun spreading through unofficial military networks, where information travels faster than official channels. Discreet phone calls were made to contacts at various intelligence agencies. Background checks were initiated through databases that most people didn't know existed. Initial searches returned no matches in standard personnel records, no visible medal citations, no obvious service history, until a retired Navy Chief Petty Officer named Williams whispered a specific name during a classified conversation. Check the archive files for Task Force Ember operations dating 2003 through 2009. Highest security classification in a sealed database accessible only through special authorization. A heavily redacted personnel file slowly revealed the existence of Operator 4K-113 operational call sign Vera. No legal last name listed. No hometown or family information. Just mission summary logs that read like fiction. Somalia Maritime Interdiction Operations. Fallujah Urban Reconnaissance. South Sudan Hostage Rescue Coordination. Kandahar Overwatch Protection. The statistics were staggering. 71 confirmed sniper assists during critical operations. 19 separate Overwatch interventions that prevented friendly casualties. One emergency extraction mission officially classified as technically impossible given available resources. Her personnel file contained a single final entry dated 6 years earlier. Operator 4K-113 voluntarily detached from unit assignment. Current status, location, and activities untraceable by personal request. Classification level permanent. She had deliberately walked away from everything that defined military service, burned her official identity, surrendered her security clearances, chose anonymity over recognition, disappeared into civilian life carrying skills that made her a legend among those who knew until some weekend warrior made the mistake of mocking her grip technique. The SEAL commander, whose name was Captain Reynolds, and whose own service record included operations alongside Task Force Ember, understood immediately why he had felt compelled to offer that salute. Vera had saved the lives of 12 SEALs during a night operation in Kandahar, when enemy snipers had pinned down an extraction team. Her precise covering fire from 800 meters away had allowed the entire unit to escape without casualties. Reynolds had been the team leader that night. He owed his life to the woman who now shot alone at a civilian range unknown and unrecognized. 3 days later, Reynolds submitted a classified request to his chain of command. Recommend immediate cessation of any attempts to locate or identify the individual in question. Some heroes have earned the right to remain invisible. The request was approved without discussion. Official curiosity about the woman in the black cap ended permanently, leaving only whispered stories among operators who understood that some legends were better left undisturbed. But at Iron Creek Range, her reputation continued growing among staff and regular patrons who had witnessed something extraordinary. The range manager, Crawford, began keeping her favorite lane 7 reserved on Sunday mornings just in case she returned. Some customers, he explained to his staff, deserve special consideration. The former Marines, who had initially doubted her abilities, now spoke of her with a kind of respect typically reserved for combat heroes. Because they had learned something important that morning. True skill doesn't announce itself with expensive equipment or loud boasting. It speaks quietly through perfect execution when it matters most. 3 months later, Vera returned to Iron Creek Range for the second time since that memorable Sunday morning when her shooting had silenced an entire facility. She arrived quietly and unannounced just as before, but this time several staff members recognized her immediately, and word spread quickly among the patrons. No one smirked or made jokes. No one dared to interrupt her focused preparation routine or comment on her equipment choices. The range had developed an unofficial protocol for her visits. Respectful distance, minimal conversation, maximum appreciation for observing genuine expertise and action. She acknowledged the young clerk behind the counter with the same polite nod she had used months earlier, selecting lane 7, which had somehow remained available despite the Sunday morning crowd. Her shooting session followed the familiar pattern: 20 precision rounds at varying distances, methodical equipment, maintenance, careful cleanup that exceeded facility standards. As she prepared to leave the range building, counting out exact change to pay in cash, a young woman approached hesitantly from the observation area. The girl appeared nervous but determined, maybe 19 years old, wearing a college sweatshirt and carrying herself with the uncertain confidence of someone stepping far outside their comfort zone. "Excuse me, ma'am," she began softly, then stopped clearly, struggling with how to continue. Vera paused in her departure, turning to give the young woman her complete attention, without impatience or annoyance. "Ma'am, did you really serve with Task Force Ember?" the girl asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Vera's expression didn't change, but something shifted behind her eyes, a careful calculation of how much truth to reveal. "No one's supposed to know that designation," she replied evenly. The girl fumbled with her words, clearly embarrassed by whatever she was trying to say. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. My brother said if you ever came back here, I should tell you thank you for saving him." Vera studied the girl's face more carefully, searching for family resemblances or familiar features that might connect to memories from operations years past. "He made it out?" she asked simply. The girl nodded enthusiastically, tears beginning to form in her eyes. "He's married now, has 2 kids, got his engineering degree on the GI Bill. He said he never got to thank the sniper who kept him alive during his last deployment." For the first time since anyone at the range had observed her, Vera's careful composure softened slightly into what might have been the beginning of a smile. "Then I didn't miss what mattered," she said quietly. She shouldered her rifle case and walked toward the parking lot, leaving the young woman standing in the range lobby with tears streaming down her face. Bill Crawford, the range manager, approached the girl gently. "Are you okay, miss?" "She saved my brother's life," the girl whispered. "And she doesn't even want credit for it." Crawford nodded with understanding. Some heroes don't do it for recognition. They do it because someone needs saving. As Vera's pickup truck disappeared down the access road for what would be the final time, the range returned to its normal Sunday activities. But her legend remained carefully preserved in the stories shared among staff and patrons who had witnessed something extraordinary. Because the most important targets aren't made of paper or steel. They're the lives that continue, because someone with quiet hands and perfect aim decided those lives were worth protecting. For more stories where quiet hands carry the loudest legacy, subscribe to The Ordinary Heroes.